Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the presentation on Demystifying Immigration for Founders. This webinar is being recorded, and the recording link will be emailed to you, to all the attendees. This webinar is provided as an educational services by Alcorn Immigration Law. The information discussed is an overview only and should not be considered as legal advice or advice to take any specific action. Please be sure to consult a knowledgeable professional with assistance with your particular issues. Lastly, please submit any questions that you may have by using the Q&A function. The questions are shared publicly, so please do not share any sensitive or personal information. There is an option to submit questions anonymously, so you can use that. We will try to get to as many questions as possible as the time permits. Sophie, now it's my pleasure to introduce you to our CEO and founders, Sophie Alcorn. Welcome, Sophie.
Thank you, Dua. Thank you, everybody. It's so great to have you here. I am so excited to discuss with my amazing immigration lawyer colleague today, Nadia, immigration for the founder journey, demystifying the qualifications, and about Alcorn's various offerings to get you started and launched with U.S. immigration. So we have a lot to cover. We have an hour to do it. There's a ton. It's exciting. And we have a lot to share. So I'm going to try to contain my enthusiasm and keep it focused and get through everything because there's a lot to cover. And I really, really, really want to try to leave time for questions at the end because I love taking questions. So do put those questions in the Q&A panel. There's an anonymous option, but if you don't check it, everybody will see your name and then they'll know your immigration status. So just keep that in mind to decide what you want to share. And let's dive into it. If you've attended Alcorn's webinars before, you will already know that this one is very different because there's not a big red intro slide. And so this was what I was doing until 1 a.m. because I got so excited about reworking this webinar to share all of this information with you guys today. I've been on my own journey of understanding more about startups, reading a ton from different startup thought leaders, product market fit, all of this stuff. So I'm excited to work this information in for everybody today. So let's dive into it. Startups, why would a startup founder want to go to the United States or Silicon Valley anyway? Isn't everything in the cloud? Don't we have Zoom now? Didn't the pandemic speed up everything that we are working on? Didn't it speed up the flow of humanity into the future? Well, I would greatly question that because people still really want to come to the United States. Not necessarily Silicon Valley. If you are super into fintech and crypto, maybe you want to be in Miami. If you're into something with the entertainment industry, maybe you want to be in LA, New York, obviously for so many industries. But I was reading this Paul Graham essay. He's the founder of YC, and he talks about how startups really accelerate within the geographical experience of a city. And the US has many of those cities. And so your chance of going from 0 to 1 and 1 to infinity is much higher when you're in one of these ecosystems for various reasons. So that essay is called Why Move to a Startup Hub. It's really good. It's still totally true 15 years later. And his point was startups are super specialized, like diamond cutting. And in startup hubs, they understand it. So with that, welcome. This is a webinar today for mostly founders, but also other people who aren't founders yet or don't believe they're founders yet or secretly want to be founders but haven't admitted it to themselves yet, or maybe aren't going to be founders but just really want a visa or green card. So we're going to speak to all of you. But if you're a founder, really the core thing that founders want is a visa or a green card and a funded startup. Now, right now, today in 2022, we can help you with the visa and the green card, and we can point you in a lot of great directions with a lot of great resources to get the startup. Cannot help you with the funding yet directly, although one of my life goals would be to fund and solve immigration for 1,000 founders. So if anybody out there can help me reach my life goal, please contact me by email or on Twitter or on LinkedIn. But for today, we are going to be focusing on the visa and green card parts of this. So I have probably, by calling you founders, triggered your imposter syndrome, right? Because that's a real thing with highly skilled people. We freak out because we're like, oh my God, I know that I'm not perfect yet. So how can I be qualified for anything? So that's normal. Don't worry about it. So it doesn't matter if you are pre or post education. You can be a college dropout or never have gone to college and still move to the US. Doesn't matter whether or not you built your MVP yet, right? We can still work with you and get you started on your journey. It doesn't matter if you have any money yet. We've helped people who bootstrap, who have a little bit from friends and family. You don't need to have the $10 million from Sequoia or A16Z in the bank yet in order to do this immigration journey. These are all the lies that I hear founders tell themselves of why they can't qualify yet. So let's dispel these myths. Another myth, you don't need to have product market fit. Oh my God, the government has no idea what that is. You can totally get a visa without it. You do not need to have a unicorn yet. Totally fine. You do not need to IPO yet. And you do not need to have a Nobel Prize to qualify for an O-1A visa for extraordinary ability, an EB-1A green card for extraordinary ability, or an EB-2 national interest waiver green card. So if you're telling yourself stories like this, these are limiting beliefs. They are not grounded in reality or truth. And you can do some visualization and breathing exercises to help adopt a new set of thoughts that you want to choose to practice to believe. And we're going to help you figure out what those are today. So really, what this all comes down to, this webinar is for anybody with US hopes and dreams. So if you want to not only live in the United States, but be free in the United States, welcome. Your journey begins now. So for those of you who do not know me yet, my name is Sophie Alcorn. I'm the founder of Alcorn Immigration Law. I am the Dear Sophie on TechCrunch. I write those columns every week for years. I'm super passionate about immigration. My mom's from Germany. My dad was an immigration lawyer. I've been doing this since I was like 2 years old, pushing buttons on fax machines and getting rewarded with sugar cubes in my dad's office. So I'm super passionate about this work, and I'm so excited to be joined today by my brilliant, amazing colleague, Nadia Zaidi. She's a Forbes top-rated startup immigration attorney. Hi, Nadia.
Hi, Sophie.
So glad we can do this today. Thanks for diving in with me.
Of course, and I mean, you are equally, if not more brilliant, so I'm always a pleasure to do this with you. So it's going to be a fun one.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited. So to ground all of our participants into what we're doing today, I just want to take a little pause, a little tangent to zoom out super briefly and just ground and locate you in the terrain of startup immigration, in where we're at and what we're going to be focusing on today. So at Alcorn, we do two types of immigration. We help a lot of funded companies grow and hire people. Happy to talk with you about that. If you're here to learn about immigration for a candidate, we would love to chat with you. But today's webinar is really for people who are in that 0 to 1 phase, the people creating something from nothing, the people who have the vision of what needs to be in the world, and they're going to work relentlessly to get it, even if nobody else understands what that vision is or why they would want to hit those targets yet. So in the world of startup speak, today we're going to focus on immigration for the founders and the people on the 0 to 1 journey, the people working on creating something from nothing, the people working on receiving these ideas from the universe and turning them into 3D physical reality here on our planet Earth for the first time. And you could be a researcher, you could be an inventor, you could be a business person, you could be a product manager. It doesn't really matter, but that's what today's focus is, how to help you get the freedom to be physically in the US and legally work to be able to actually go on that 0 to 1 journey. And we love holding founders' hands at this stage because, of course, we're going to nurture you and help you. And then when it's the right time, and you have that company that has that MVP and product market fit, and it's time to blitz scale, of course, we would love to partner with you and your team and help you on that journey of hockey stick growth from 1 to infinity. So now we're actually going to talk about the immigration stuff. And this webinar was called Demystifying Qualifications. So of course, in my middle of the night passion project of making this slide deck last night, I did throw in a few puns and memes and other things for your amusement and edification. So let's talk about demystifying qualifications for O-1A visas, EB-1A green cards, and EB-2 national interest waiver green cards. So we are going to be examining 3 journeys. The 3 main classic things that Alcorn immigration law sees over and over and over again in the people we support with these cases the most is this: international students already in the US, maybe on J1, probably on F1, maybe they've graduated yet, maybe they haven't graduated yet, maybe they're trying to figure out how to work legally before they graduate, maybe they're trying to figure out how to stay here after they graduate. But international students, a big one. There's 1 million international students in the US each year. The other really big group that we also have consistently helped throughout the pandemic is people mostly born in India or China on H-1Bs, stuck waiting for their green card priority date, in line, working at a giant tech company, dreaming of being able to launch their passion project into a company that they can actually work at legally, put on social media and make money for, and they're super brilliant and they feel really, 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 really trapped. The third group that we've helped people with from the very beginning under the Obama administration when I started this firm, but subsided in COVID, but I really feel this energy shift happening. People want to be back in real life, in person, especially for that 0 to 1 journey, being close to your co-founders and being in the market is so instrumental and important for actually creating a startup that can sell a product to people, something that users actually want. So this third group would be founders located around the world who are trying to figure out how to come to the United States for the first time. So we're going to be taking each of these in turn and chatting about some specific examples and things that come up on the way and how Alcorn can help you launch into your own self-petitioned visa or green card to solve your US immigration needs. So for all of these groups of people, the common waypoint on this journey is you're probably going to want to take a path involving, we call it our business individual team, which Nadia leads, O1s, EB-1As, and EB-2 NIWs. But the details and the boulders and the logs and the pathway and the creeks and whatever you got to go through is going to be a little bit different for each person. So one of my dear founder friends recently finally got me to watch Lord of the Rings. I've seen 2 of them so far. I have to wait to see the third in person because things are not the same done remotely as they are in person. but this is for you. You're on this webinar. One does not simply walk into Mordor. So here we go. Let's dive in. Okay, Nadia, are you ready to chat with me about international students?
I am ready. Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. Everybody wants a unicorn. 25%, I think technically 23%, but this is like 3 years old. 25%-ish of unicorns in the United States are founded by at least one former or present international student. Are you surprised by this, Nadia?
I'm actually not, but I've been doing it for a long time too. And, you know, I've seen people with their brilliant ideas. So this makes sense.
Yeah. Our US education system is such an amazing funnel for innovation for the world and for national. I mean, of course, there's all these reasons why we should have immigration, national security, creating jobs. We're not here to preach to the choir, but I imagine it's probably even more because post-pandemic and post-Trump, I think even international students who want like corporate jobs are probably going to go to Canada or somewhere here, right? So you've got to have a really burning desire to end up here. So I think the percentage of international students who are going to found unicorns and the numbers of international students who aspire to be founders are just going to increase.
Absolutely. I think so too.
So looking at the F1 student journey, and of course, if you're on a J1, we would love to talk to you and support you too. It's just that there's not very many of you relative to F1s. But I just wanted to create like a little flow. This is the timeline of employment options for people on F1. Some of them can be used for people who want to be startup founders. And this is sort of the sandbox in which you get to play and you get to figure out how to legally found and work at your company while you're an international student.
Yeah.
So Nadia, that first year, there's not a whole lot that can happen for most founders, right? You're only allowed to have on-campus employment.
Right, exactly. So that's really the year where you're getting yourself situated. Maybe you're starting to think a little bit about the next steps, but you can't really do much in terms of.
Yeah, one of the businesses that I dream of founding one day would be to help all F1 international students work legally for their own startups, their whole student journey, and just solve it for people. I've figured out it's a service business, not a startup. So that's not the immediate focus, but there are ways for international students to work at their startups.
Yeah.
I think you have to be really careful and talk to your DSO, the designated student officer who runs the CVIS program at your school's international office, and be really careful about self-employment and hours and rates, and is it in CVIS? But there are programs like CPT and pre-completion OPT that some students use to navigate employment before they graduate.
Yeah.
I take a really cautionary approach. Like the founder in me is very creative, but the lawyer training in us at Alcorn, of course, has to be super cautious to give our clients their best foot forward. I am cautious about F1 students without work authorization incorporating a company, even if it's for a class project, and like selling things or doing Facebook ads, even those like prototyping things that classes might require if you're trying to do startup education. I think it's probably going to be okay, but a hard look, I would just encourage people to be extremely cautious about undertaking this without explicit work authorization.
Yeah, I completely agree. And people, I mean, we get asked this question all the time.
Yeah.
When can I do it? How can I do it? But yeah, work authorization is really critical, especially when you're in that time where you're a student and you really don't want to do anything to negatively impact futures.
Yeah. Thank you. Can you give us an overview of how regular OPT and STEM OPT work for founders after graduation, please?
Yeah, of course. So OPT is great because after graduation, you have 12 months of regular OPT, which everybody gets post-graduation. And that time, I always tell people, is very valuable. because you get employment authorization and you can work for yourself. And that might be a time where you do think about incorporating your business. Now, of course, there has to be a whole strategy because it's only 12 months. So what happens after the 12 months? But that 12 months is a great time to actually take action, to lay down the foundation, to start speaking to, people who might
anything related to your field. You can be self-employed, you can volunteer, you want to get that into CVIS, but there's no minimum wage. I mean, of course, the state minimum wage or county or whatever, but there's a lot of flexibility.
Yes, exactly.
And then just be cautious, because if you use pre-completion OPT, those months will cut into your post-completion OPT 12 months.
Right.
And then for STEM OPT, Nadia, what do startups need to have to be able to qualify? Just the basics.
So STEM OPT is a bit trickier. It's more strict. So you do need that employer-employee relationship. So you can no longer be self-employed for STEM OPT. So it needs to be structured such that you are being employed by a company, you have a training plan in place, and there's another stakeholder at the company who is overseeing this training, because STEM OPT is really meant for you to get more training, and it's not meant for self-employment. Which,
that being said, we've set up viable, compliant STEM OPT training plans and E-Verify for a number of startups, for CEOs, for CTOs, with different equity structures, advisors hired inside the company or in academia. There's so many ways to do it, and it really depends on the founder mix.
Right, exactly. It just needs to be done the right way.
And my guidance for folks in this student journey, especially in the earlier stages, is as soon as you're aware that this is going to be your path, it's really nice to avoid all the H1BS that happens with the lottery. So it is really great to build your O-1A or EB-2 NIW portfolio to bypass the H1B. So if you were born in India or China, you probably definitely need to focus on an O-1A first, because we have a racist, messed up immigration system. I'm sorry. But if you were born in another country, or your spouse was, then you're starting this before you graduate, you might be able to qualify for an EB-2 NIW green card self-petition pretty quickly. If you're not going to travel internationally, you might have a green card before the end of your STEM OPT. So that's definitely worth talking to our team about.
Yeah, we've done this for many, many people, and it's definitely possible.
Yeah. Okay, let's go through some F1 details, because these are a lot of common questions that we get. So, okay. So founding on regular OPT, I think we covered this. Just to recap, it is possible to found a startup, be a startup founder, work for equity on OPT, should be fine, right?
Yeah, that's right.
For STEM OPT, you need the training program, you need a legit employer-employee relationship with oversight and advisors. Your company will need to enroll in E-Verify. We can help you with that. The H-1B lottery, want to help you avoid it, but let's just say you're at the end of STEM OPT and you're like, oh crap, I didn't know I could get an O-1. I've been trying to do the H-1B thing, and now I have my own company. So startups very early stage startups can put people in the H-1B lottery. There's really no minimum funding requirement. We've been very creative about the ways that we can help establish the ability to pay. So we'll talk a little bit about that more later, but I have had founders put co-founders in other countries in the H-1B lottery. So it's definitely possible. And if somebody is running out of STEM OPT and they were not selected in the H-1B lottery and they need to work at a startup, we have a lot of startup clients that are very successful with a CAP exempt H-1B. This is an H-1B without the lottery. We're currently working with a partner nonprofit, Open Avenues. You can reach out to our team for an introduction for your company. But this is a way to give back to US college students 5 hours a week by working on and helping them have micro internships and project-based learning in STEM. And when you do that, the person gets an H-1B through a nonprofit without the lottery, and then the startup can piggyback on a second concurrent 35-hour-a-week H-1B to work legitimately for the startup. So if you're at the end of your STEM OPT, the lottery, we just got word last week, there's no more selections for people who were on the wait list. So if you're in that situation and you don't have an O-1, you can't get an O-1 now, it's okay. You can stay in the US and work legally, but please contact us immediately for this year's cycle. And we'll have all those details at the end for how to do that. So really the O-1 is amazing if you qualify, and certainly we're going to talk about how to qualify, and the national interest waiver green card as well, which is a little bit easier than the EB-1A. So Nadia, let's talk about some sample criteria in a minute. Let's talk about, I think what we can really help people with is they're like, well, I think I qualify, but I don't know yet. So we're going to have options we have a really great thing that I'm really excited to offer for people in that situation at the end of today's webinar. But for people who are like, oh yeah, I've just had one internship, I've never gotten an award, and nobody's ever written about me, and I've never done anything. Let's talk about the criteria, and also just know that Alcorn does have an online class called Extraordinary Ability Bootcamp, which you can find on our website, which will guide you through all of this in more detail. So sample criteria. So let's talk just a few minutes on what this means in terms of, there's a founder who wants an O-1A for extraordinary ability in some combination of business and engineering at like a SaaS tech startup that they created. Pretty common, right?
Yep.
Okay. So what are some just high level examples of awards that folks might be able to consider?
Yeah, we've been pretty successful with things like accelerators. So we've been able to argue that accelerators or incubators that are selective and have a selective criteria for who they choose to be part of their programs is a type of award. And we've also—
so YC, 500, Techstars, German accelerator, other country-based accelerators, absolutely.
Exactly. It's all about what is their selection criteria? Because the officer is going to look at that and say, well, if they were so selective, then this person must be, impressive, and this is a type of award. And if they give you any type of funding or grant along with that acceptance, then that also helps strengthen that argument that it's a type of award.
Yeah, and that can also be a membership in an association. We've also had people being advisors or mentors or venture scouts. Those things might be able to qualify as membership. VC funding can be an award. And also, I have this little asterisk that some of this just got easier in the Biden-Harris administration. If you have a STEM background, PhD awards can now qualify for O's. So that's exciting. Media coverage, we help some people with just one TechCrunch article about them.
We do.
So I usually recommend more, but just saying.
It also depends on where the coverage is. TechCrunch is more well known, so we look at the quality over the quantity. So if you're in Forbes 30 under 30, that's a big deal. If it's
and we've had former clients like nominate current clients to be on the Forbes 30 under 30 list, and it's worked. So there's
that's
that.
Great. Yeah, so it's definitely, people always say how many, and it's hard to answer that because, as I said, if you're in Forbes or the New York Times, obviously that holds more weight than if you're in 5 obscure newsletters. So you have to look at where it is.
The Village pamphlet will not work.
Exactly.
Judging pitch competitions, hackathons, membership for new accelerator companies and programs, all that can work. Internal hiring is a little challenging though. So is better.
Right. And for STEM people, there's so many people that say, well, I was asked to judge this thing and I didn't have time. So the answer is
say yes.
Do it.
Do it. Anytime anybody invites you for judging, say yes.
Yes. Exactly.
What you created matters. Technically, this is original contributions of business significance to the field, but like just create something that users want, and then we can use that.
Yeah.
And being a growth marketer and just getting a lot of users is probably not going to work for this. But if you use novel techniques to get new users that you're then selling to people, that would be original under this.
Right. And if you have patents, if you have trademarks, if you have, you know, other things that are like an output or a product of what you did, then that can be used as evidence and is very helpful.
Authorship, TechCrunch will run articles from founders in a how-to series. So if you want to write about some problem you had in your startup and how you overcame it, feel free to contact us, and I can give you some additional guidance and potentially facilitate an introduction to their team there. But please do not talk about problems you had when you did not have work authorization when you were working on your startup.
Right, exactly.
Leadership, so being a founder works, and for comp, equity, valuations, you know, all of that, we can use safe notes to illustrate all of these points. We've done that successfully for many. Okay, so let's take, so that's students. So try to get as much as you can of this stuff before the end of STEM OPT so that you can just get an O-1. If you have all this, probably an EB-2 is going to be easy for you, but that's what we are here to help you navigate and take a look for. But let's talk about, you're like, hey, I already graduated. I've already been working at Apple or Facebook or Meta or Google or whatever for like the last, you know, 8.5 years, and I'm waiting for my priority date, and I don't like my manager, and I'm stuck, and I have this thing in my garage with my friend, and it's not a company, but it's a really good idea. What do we do? So if you're in this FANG or MINGA situation, this next section is for you. We're going to talk a little bit more about H-1Bs and how this relates to the founder journey and EB-1A, especially for folks from India and China. So this is pre-pandemic, but if you were brilliant enough to accomplish a PhD and the happenstance of your birth is that you entered this life and this planet in a body in India, then the estimated wait time for people in the EB-2 category to get green cards based on country of birth of India had been 151 years pre-pandemic. Now, this is probably different now, but nobody knows what it is. I asked the guy who made this statistic, he had no idea. So nobody knows what it is right now, but it's probably a lot. So that's why, similar thing for China, but this is why people need a faster green card route and why they look at the O-1 to EB-1A path, because they have to get out of this H-1B ball and chain that many Indian and Chinese founders find themselves in. And just the amount of PTSD, trauma, triggering, anxiety, avoidance, all of these behaviors that I see founders day in and day out experience because they're like captives in these tech companies and they can't express themselves or create their ideas in the world. I can't even imagine the cost that this is having on the world economy, keeping people trapped, but it's okay. We are here to help. So the H-1B transfer for founders, here are some basics that you will need to bring your co-founder to the light at your new tech startup. You will need to incorporate. You will have to figure out everybody's equity. You'll have to figure out who's doing what in the company. You'll have to figure out if the H-1B person has a real employer-employee relationship with the company. You'll need to figure out who can qualify to sign all of the immigration paperwork. You'll need to see what is the minimum salary to offer this person. And you'll probably need to have some amount of money in the bank to pay for all of this and show the government that you can pay for all of this. We have so much to talk about. I'm just going to go through this kind of quickly, Nadia, because this is like a whole other conference summit. I have this dream of renting a catamaran and doing like a founder education cruise on it about US education and international waters. It would be so fun. I might go to Web Summit and It's like, can we get a catamaran? So if you're going to be at Web Summit in Portugal, please let me know. Or if you have a catamaran outside of Web Summit in Portugal, please let me know. We'll have a fun party. Okay, so usually if the H-1B beneficiary has more than 50% equity, it is hard to prove an employer-employee relationship. So we might need to bring in corporate counsel to set up different classes of shares with different voting rights to try to establish this and be in compliance. Usually H-1B transfers for CTOs, for people with technical backgrounds, are a little bit easier than for people who want to be CEOs. It just like fits the H-1B stuff easier. And sometimes USCIS pushes back and says that the CEO is not a professional title. It does not require a bachelor's degree in a field. Steve Jobs didn't have a bachelor's degree. So there you go. But it's still doable. We can still get H-1Bs for founders. We got one for somebody with an MBA. So they like had a hybrid title that they were working on. It's all possible. Somebody else is going to have to be the signatory. I would prefer if the person who's the signatory, if they're in the US, has work authorization. If they're outside of the US, they would not need US immigration work authorization. There will be a prevailing wage. It depends on where you're going to live. If you want to live in Idaho, it will be cheaper than New York, Boston, Los Angeles, Miami, or San Francisco. It all depends on what job we're going with. That's something we figure out after you hire us. It takes time and research, and there has to be some way to pay for the person's wage, some money in the bank. There's no real, we're just having an internal attorney powwow discussion on this morning, and the best practice. USCIS does not have a hardline rule on how much funding you need to have. Sometimes founders are like, we only raised 850,000. Will that be enough? That will absolutely be enough. We've gotten H-1Bs approved for people with as little as 60K in the bank. We just want to have a robust strategy if there is a request for evidence for how we're going to do it. So then the question becomes, okay, we've done this H-1B transfer. The person's in the startup. They're from India. Well, crap, how are we going to get them a green card? Because what if the startup fails, right? Like, we don't know if we're going to get this on the third try. There's a thing about serial founders. So how do we get our friend and colleague Immigration Freedom to be innovative and actually help build the company? So there's a number of factors for green cards for H-1B founders as it relates to EB-1A. Some of the factors are their priority date, whether they already have an I-485 pending, and whether we can do a transfer of their green card through this law called the American Competitiveness in the 21st Century Act, AC-21 portability. If it's the same or similar occupation, it can work. If you're going from, head engineer of Meta making whatever 300K plus a lot of options and stuff to CTO at tiny unfunded startup, wishing you could take a 60K salary, that might be too big of a gap. So sometimes we have to bridge that very carefully. If you're from India or China, you're probably going to have to look at a EB-1 if your priority date isn't current and you need to speed things up. But if your priority date is current, or if you can go into another country's category, then the EB-2 NIW might work. But we have a lot of founder clients who are from India or China, and they self-petition EB-1A green cards, right, Nadia? And it's kind of better if you have an O-1 first, but it's not required. We can do it from H-1B, but I think it helps. What do you think?
I definitely think it helps because the EB-1A is just a higher standard than the O. And so if you already have an O, it's a great foundation. EB-1As are more strictly scrutinized. And so we want to make sure that we have sufficient evidence. And I would say having an O-1 at least tells us that you have the minimum, if that makes sense. And then we want to build up on that.
Yeah. So thank you, Mind Reader. This is that slide. The O-1A is a great stepping stone. It can just, if you're imagining like a staircase, you don't have to get to the top all in one jump, just like do one step at a time and launch and iterate. And the O-1 can be a great stepping stone from H-1B to EB-1A, especially if you were born in India and have a long wait time. Yeah. Well, and then to that point, what the heck is an EB-2 NIW? We've been talking about O's and EB-1As. So what's an EB-2 NIW and how does it relate?
Yeah, the best way I like to describe it is that while the O and EB-1A are sort of backwards looking at what have you done until this moment in your career and your life, the EB-2 NIW is giving you a chance to be more forward looking. And that's why it works really well for founders sometimes. So it requires you to have either an advanced degree or a bachelor's plus experience. And then if you can show that your work is going to benefit the United States. And that doesn't mean that you have to be a rocket scientist or you have to be curing cancer. You could be an entrepreneur, just, you're creating jobs, you have a solid pitch deck or business plan, or you're solving a problem that is of interest to the US. So this is where
you just have to have some idea of what you're going to do when you get the green card in 2 years. To be able to stick to it. So, but we can craft, like, if you're afraid your startup's gonna tank, let's stick to your field. Let's create an itinerary, right? Let's do there's a lot of ways to be creative about this.
Right, as long as you're gonna benefit people in the US aside from yourself and build something, this is something that could work.
Okay, and then for a while there, I was getting all sorts of inquiries on cannabinoid biotech things and testing psychedelic plant medicines. So you can't do anything illegal, people. Federal law highly strictly controls various substances. Immigration is federal law. So don't do anything related to vices if you want an immigration status. Just do stuff that like creates jobs and saves lives and it's legal everywhere. Then you'll be good. Okay. So let's talk, and I see questions coming and I hope we'll have time to answer some. I'm so excited about that. But let's talk for a little bit now about you're outside of the US and you want to come in. You've been like peering through the glass walls of the internet over the pandemic and you feel stuck in a basement somewhere and you're hacking and you wish you could be around people in real life, and you did YC startup school and they're like, yeah, everybody's choosing remote founders and it's great and we have Zoom, but we still really think that being in Mountain View is great and we're still really excited to open up Y Combinator again. So like there's all these reasons why people actually want to be in the US still, right?
Of course.
So the fastest way to get in and legitimately work in the United States, as opposed to just being a tourist or a business visitor on ESTA or a B1, B2 and visiting and not being able to legally work for a US company, I think this is the fastest. What do you think? The O?
Yep, definitely the O if you qualify.
Okay.
Yeah,
great.
Because there's no lottery. It's not restricted to a time period. You can apply any time of the year. So there's lots of benefits.
Processing, the consulates don't have to do a bunch of the adjudication. They just look at the paper and they're like, is this really you? Oh, okay, great.
Exactly.
Approved. So great. Okay. And the other reason I really, really, really like O's is because O's signed by an agent can allow the founder beneficiary to have multiple legitimate streams of employment, which can then allow you to secure your foundation for an EB-1A in an even stronger way. Right. So this can be helpful for being a founder at a company. You can set it up so that you can get advisory shares in your friends' companies to help them. You could get legitimately paid as a speaker for conferences and then include that in your EB-1A. You could do contract work, 1099, probably not Uber or DoorDash, but that's okay. And more, right? Like the sky's the limit once you have an itinerary on your O1.
Yeah, this is great. And it's very helpful when you're not, when you're not like in a traditional employer-employee situation, you're a founder, but you need to have multiple projects ongoing to support yourself. This is a very good setup.
And it's the best way legitimately to do a variety of work activities for your EB-1, because you never want your stuff that's your evidence to be called into question of like, were you working on that at the time?
It's funny because we used to do these for artists, like obviously all the time, freelancers, designers, makeup artists and whatnot. And so sometimes founders or people that are in STEM fields or business fields, they're not aware that this is a situation that could work for them too.
Right. It came from Hollywood. and the arts, and we use it all the time for founders. And you don't need a formal agency, like a sports agent representing you. We can, we help founders figure out who the right agent should be for them all the time. And we have a lot of options to make that work. Okay, just last tip about visas and green cards, because I'm always surprised that some people don't know this. At least before I started writing for TechCrunch, people didn't know this. Maybe they know it now. But if you are in a foreign country and you've never been to the United States before and you want a visa or a green card, you can actually just get one from your foreign country home. There's no requirement of a visa to get a green card. There's no requirement of having been in the United States as a student to qualify for stuff. You don't need to be a visitor first. You can just do it all from your basement home in Iran or wherever. I mean, that might be a little harder, but for most countries in the world, there's a very clear path. For others, we might have to do, multiple step processes, but you can do it. So sometimes people with high schoolers are like, I'm gonna get green cards for my whole family before I uproot and buy a house and move to the US. But a lot of other people are like, oh, I'm just gonna get myself an O-1 and move here. So it's possible. All right, so the question you may be asking yourself is, okay, Sophie, Nadia, I hear you, but like, come on. Do I qualify? Do I already qualify? Do I need more? What am I supposed to do? So we are here for you to be your North Star and provide that guidance. Our process for how we do these types of cases at Alcorn is there is a fundamental preliminary step that we pride ourselves in as really like our white glove offering to everybody. We know how much attention to detail we want to give each of our clients to evaluate their options and give them guidance about what they need to do to qualify, or if they're already qualified. This can be some nerve-wracking stuff. So we are super excited about our legal launch program, which is the first phase of any O-1A visa or EB-1A or EB-2 NIW green card at Alcorn. It's our white glove offering. What we do is our goal is to provide you with 100% clarity on your qualifications, and if they're good enough. We want to leave you feeling that all your questions have been answered. We offer guidance and support in helping you prepare if we determine you're not ready yet. And all of this is aimed at launching you into your process with as high a percentage chance of approval as possible, but also not wasting your time on unnecessary stuff when you already have enough, because your time is your most valuable asset. So grab your helmets. We'll hear from Sean in a minute about how you can contact him and our team to get started. But the first step of legal launch and our process is to confirm your eligibility with our client success manager, Sean. He's supported by Jessica and Catherine, our wonderful team members. And then once you get started with us, we guide you through managing the project that we're embarking on together to prepare your evidence. You get 3 weekly Zooms with our lovely legal administrative assistant, Celeste, who's very cheerful and very excited to meet with you. She's incredible. We guide you through reviewing and uploading all of your information. We have a proprietary 3-level evidentiary review that is part of our Alcorn immigration method that we go through. And then after all of that, you get one-on-one focus time with Nadia, who is able to review your entire portfolio of qualifications and give you super clear feedback on if you qualify. And if you don't, you also get access to our bootcamp class, Extraordinary Ability Bootcamp. And if you are, then we credit your investment in the legal fees for legal launch. And we just roll that over into your visa or green card, whatever you determine is your next step in consultation with Nadia and our amazing team. I'm super excited about it. I feel like for the people who have been supported by these services, I think there's really like, and of course, like I'm a lawyer, this is not right. Like, how do you measure this stuff? But I can see the difference in the confidence and the approvability. And I think that it really, really makes a difference for people and their qualifications and their peace of mind, because both dovetail and you can't have one without the other. Nadia, any words to say about who should contact us or why you like the way we're doing this?
Absolutely. If you feel that you have evidence to support extraordinary ability, even a few of the categories, or you have evidence, you're not sure which category it supports, but you then are a perfect candidate who should contact us so we can do the thorough analysis and tell you where you stand, and also give you really concrete advice on what to do to qualify within a few months and, you know, in certain cases.
Thank you, Nadia. And what I'm really excited to do, so usually a visa ends up being about $10,000. A green card for one person ends up being about $15,000. Legal launch is the first stage of either process. It's $2,500. But what we want to do today as an offering for everybody who's attending this class is legal launch. If you sign up with Sean, and I'll turn it over to him for how to do this, but if you sign up with Sean before the end of the week, which is tomorrow, 5 p.m. Pacific time, we will actually provide a $1,000 discount. So instead of $2,500, legal launch will be $1,500. Sean, what is the best way for our attendees to contact you and get started with our team?
Hey, Sophie, thanks. Appreciate it. The best way to get a hold of my team to get the whole process started would be to email them at help@alcorn.law. Or you can use my email address also, which is sean@alcorn.law. And if you just want to kind of call directly in and see if you can get a hold of Jessica or Catherine, the phone number has been provided. It's 855-546-0015. And we'd love to talk to you and get you guys set up for about a half-hour talk with me and get you set up for legal launch.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sean. And Dua is going to put this contact information in the chat window for everybody right now, so you can copy and paste that. And I'm so excited we did it. Nobody has ever rehearsed this talk before. This is the first time we've ever done it in this format, and we have 5 more minutes so we get to answer questions. So I'm so excited. So check the chat window for hello@alcorn.law and 855-546-0015. And I will just say, if you are ready to go on a journey, an adventure, I'll pack up my bags. So we're very excited to go on this journey with you. And with that, we do have 5 minutes. So I'm going to stop my share, and we are going to take some questions. So thank you everybody so much for these questions. Gosh, somebody climbed Mount Everest. That's incredible. I'm not surprised. That's that tiger energy of founders. You just want to like get it done. This is wonderful. So a lot of your questions we would love to answer in legal launch. That is the way we can actually focus and not give you some off the cuff random ass educational information on this webinar, but we can help you figure it out. But in general, let's take a few of these. So, oh yeah, everybody's going to get the recording. That'll be a private unlisted Zoom link. Duo will send it out by the end of the week, so you'll get that. So here's like a strategy question. This comes to us from Anand. He's in 500 startups. He climbed Mount Everest and has written 5 books. He's doing a PhD in physics. Should he apply directly for an EB-1, or should he try to get an O-1 first? Nadia? I mean, I think, okay, so we can't use Mount Everest. That's cool, but it doesn't matter. Sorry. Yeah. Unless you use your proprietary technology in physics to launch yourself up to the top without a or something.
Yeah. I mean, look, you have a PhD, you've written stuff, you have published material, hopefully it's related. The question which we would solve in legal launch would be, what is the field of endeavor? Because that's, you know, the evidence has to tie to what your field is. And then we would look at whether the book support it, does the 500 startup support it, and what more do you need in order to strengthen that application?
Exactly. And if we can go straight to an EB-1A and skip the O-1, like we're in it for the long-term game. I don't care about selling you an O-1 if you can just get an EB-1. I would rather see you successful and help you thrive, and maybe one day your company will hire us, right? So, but if the O-1 matters, then Nadia would be able to tell you.
Exactly.
Okay. Then we have this is a good high level overview question that I think helps for all founders. This comes to us from somebody in Italy. Investors look for founders and founders look for investors, but there is a barrier to come over money and visa. There should be a special way for international founders without money, with a good idea, to get in touch with investors who need this connection as well. I live in Italy and will move to the UK, which was my second choice because it's quite difficult to come to the US. Yeah, Stefano, I hear you. I have dedicated my career to the last 10 years to trying to solve this chicken and egg problem, this catch-22, because it is so frustrating and stupid, and it hurts the whole world because you can't be in the US now to build your company. But it is possible. You just have to find the right precise leverage point. So it may completely be possible for you in Italy or in the UK to get the qualifications to self-petition an O-1A with an agent for a US company that you create. And then when you're here and you can work legally, you can pitch to investors and talk to them and basically do whatever you want when you run your company. So it is possible. So please, we hear you. We care about you. This is what this firm is set up for, is helping people like you find a way to break through and achieve your dreams. Okay, Nadia, final parting words of wisdom. My wonderful attorney colleague of startup immigration expertise.
I mean, that was such valuable information you shared. The only other thing I'll say is people want to know, does this one document qualify me? And we have to look at the full picture. So we're really not just saying that. We look at it how a USCIS officer would. So it's really hard to say in a 10-minute conversation whether your document would qualify you without looking at your whole file.
Right. It's like if you wander into the ER and you catch the brain surgeon by the elevator and you're like, look at this bump on my head. What is it? Like, we can't do that. Come on. Exactly. So hold yourself in high enough esteem and regard that you want to give yourself the full set of options to be able to take responsibility of your future. So where there's a will, there is a way. Well, thank you. Thank you, everybody, so much. I had so much fun. I hope you did too. Nadia, thank you so much for diving right in and doing this brand new webinar with me today.
That was amazing. So valuable, Sophie. I hope, people really, I'm sure that they will have so much value in that and the resources we're sharing, as well as legal launch.
Thank you so much, Nadia. And everybody, please check your emails. You'll be getting the presentation video for your review, and it also has our contact information. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. Have an amazing rest of your day, wherever you're at in the world, Algeria or France or Iran or India or whatever down the street from me in Mountain View. And be well, do good work, and keep in touch. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.